Radha Madhava Kunja Bihade Jaya Gopi Dana Balabha Girivarathade Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Banachade Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihade Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Panchatattva, 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 Panchatattva. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Madhavastasa ki Vrinda Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Mayapur Chandra Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Shri Panchatattva ki jai, Shri Shri Prahlad Nrsingadev ki jai, to English Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Gyantamirandasya Gyananjana Shalokaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Hayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Bhutay Mahatprema Purvibhur, Nirmaya Kshete Yat Amusha Purusha Bhungte Gunan Sadasa Sadasatmaka, Yalang Krishista Bhagavan Vacham Sime. Hare Krishna. So, thank you everyone for taking part in Srimad Bhagavatam class, and I definitely have zero qualifications to say anything on this wonderful topic, and I beg blessings from all the Vaishnavas present here. We have so many senior-most Vaishnava disciples like Rameshwar Prabhu and Caramo Prabhu and many other Prabhupada disciples as well, as many knowledgeable Vaishnavas here. to please give your blessings so that I would be able to say something beneficial, especially for myself. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 4, which is entitled Vidura Approaches Maitreya, text number 12. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sa eṣaḥ sādho caramo bhavānām. Sa eṣaḥ sādho caramo bhavānām. Āsāditas mad-anugrahayāt. Āsāditas mad-anugrahayāt. Yanmam nṛ-lokān raja utsṛjantaṁ. Yanmam nṛ-lokān raha utsṛjantaṁ. diṣṭyā dadṛśvān viśada-anuvṛttyā. diṣṭyā dadṛśvān viśada-anuvṛttyā. Sa eṣaḥ sādho caramo bhavantam. Āsāditas mad-anugrahayāt. Yanmam nṛ-lokān raha utsṛjantaṁ. diṣṭyā dadṛśvān viśada-anuvṛttyā. Please. utsṛjantaṁ. Ladies, please. diṣṭyā viśada-anuvṛttyā. Synonyms, please repeat. Saham, that. Eṣaḥ, of those. Sādho, O honest one. Caramaḥ, the ultimate. Bhavānām, of all your incarnations. As Vasu. Āsāditaḥ, now achieved. Te, unto you. Mad, my. Anugraha, mercy. Yat, as it is. Yat, because. Mam, me. nṛ-lokān, the planets of the conditioned souls. Raha, in seclusion. Utsṛjantaṁ, while quitting. diṣṭyā, by seeing. dadṛśvān, what you have seen. viśada-anuvṛttyā, by unflinching devotion. O honest one, your present life is the last and the supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode, Vaikuntha, by living this universe of conditioned living entities. You visit to me in this lonely place. Your visit to me in this lonely place, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, is a great boon for you. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, so Prabhupada ki jai. When a person is fully conversant with knowledge of the Lord, as far as can be known by a perfect living entity in the liberated state, he is allowed to enter into the spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets exist. The Lord was sitting in a lonely place just above, about to disappear from the vision of the inhabitants of this universe. And Uddhava was fortunate to see him even at that time, and thus received the Lord's permission to enter Vaikuntha. The Lord is everywhere at all times, and his appearance and disappearance are merely the experience of the inhabitants of a particular universe. He is just like the sun. The sun does not appear or disappear in the sky. It is only in the experience of man that in the morning the sun rises and in the evening the sun sets. The Lord is simultaneously both in Vaikuntha and everywhere within and without Vaikuntha. End of the purport. So the text one more time. Sa eṣaḥ sādho caramo bhavānām āsāditas te mad-anugraho yat yanmam nṛ-lokān raha utsṛjantaṁ diṣṭyā dadṛśvān viśada-anuvṛttyā. O honest one, your present life is the last and the supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode, Vaikuntha, by living this universe of conditioned living entities. You visit to me in this lonely place because your visit to me in this lonely place, because of your pure and unflinching devotional service, is a great boon for you. Hare Krishna. So we are very fortunate because we are in Sridham Mayapur, very special place, and in the association of so many special devotees. And today is also a special day because it's a disappearance of Sripad Ramanujacharya, which means his return to Vaikuntha, return to the spiritual world, because of his outstanding devotional service. And even though the Lord is speaking to Uddhava, telling him that he deserved to go to the spiritual world due to his unflinching devotional service. But exactly the same applies to Sripad Ramanujacharya, and he is one of the most prominent Vaishnavas in the history of the planet, and that's why everything he said or did is exactly in line with what this particular verse describes. So it's Krishna's arrangement that this verse and purport matches the exact topic at hand, and so we'll speak about him and his amazing departure from this world. Of course, his life is filled with so many amazing examples of true devotion, pure devotion. But because today is his disappearance day, we'll mostly focus on his disappearance. So he was quoted many times, of course, by Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. We may remember that in the very introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says that Ramanujacharya explains that Sanatana Dharma has nothing to do with any religions of this world, right? Because religions have beginning and end, but Sanatana Dharma is beginningless, and for this reason it is endless. So Sanatana Dharma has nothing to do with any religion of this world. As Prabhupada said, it is a spiritual science. So, and this is original statement by Sripad Ramanujacharya, as well as many other amazing revelations he shared with us, quoted by our acharyas. And Sripad Ramanujacharya shared many important teachings, but as some of you know, that is described in Navadviptam Mahatmya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Specifically, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu selected two of his teachings to incorporate into Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. Just out of curiosity, anyone remembers which two? Vaishnava Seva? No, not deity worship. What is the second one? Ananya Bhakti. Unalloyed devotion, free from the influences of karma and jnana. Deity worship was taken from Madhvacharya, whose disappearance day was yesterday. Interesting that, you know, Madhvacharya's disappearance day was yesterday and Ramanujacharya's disappearance day was today. Seems to be a very auspicious time for return to the spiritual world. And so, Vaishnava Seva is one major topic of the importance, because when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was inquired by one resident of Kulinagram, "My Lord, what is the purpose of life and how to achieve it?" And of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, the purpose of life is Krishna Prema. Panchama Purushartha. The fifth and most important goal is to develop pure love of God. And he said there are two things we can do. You know, sometimes devotional service appears to be very difficult science to understand. We have so many devotees taking Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, some devotees taking Bhakti Sarvabhauma, etc. Seems to be very, very difficult subject matter to comprehend. But Lord Chaitanya made it very simple. Sometimes I'm thinking there is a big difference between learned people and wise men, right? Between scholars and wise personalities. You know what's the difference? Scholar or learned man, he can explain a simple thing in such complicated terms you will never be able to understand unless you have specified education and training in the field, right? What he's talking about is really hard to understand. But wise man can make very complicated subject matter so simple anyone can understand. So that's the difference. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along those lines, he made this very complex science of bhakti very simple, because he said there are only two steps to take. Prabhu kahe, Vaishnava seva, Nama Sankirtan, Dui pade, Shigra pabe, Shri Krishna charan. So, if we serve Vaishnavas and chant the holy name, if we make only these two steps in our life, very quickly we will achieve Shri Krishna charan, the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So, as Prabhupada would say, simple for the simple. And interesting that Vaishnava Seva mentioned even before Nama Sankirtan. Because without blessings of the Vaishnavas, we can't really perform our devotional service. Blessings of the Vaishnavas, of course, blessings of our spiritual master as the topmost Vaishnava, and other Vaishnavas who should be our Shiksha Gurus, right? Those we're learning from. That's all we consist of. Only by the power of their blessings we can continue our devotional service. And if we are foolish enough to lose their blessings, our spiritual life might end. And so along those lines, coming back to Ramanujacharya and his final days, towards the end of his pastimes, and of course Ramanujacharya, anyway, we'll speak about this a little more later. One of his prominent disciples, whom some of you might heard, Dhanurdas, he asked Ramanujacharya a very interesting question. Because Ramanujacharya in his class spoke about Bibhishan, Ravana's brother, how he came and surrendered unto Lord Ramachandra. And even though Lord Ramachandra's associates, many of them didn't trust Bibhishan because, coming from the enemy's camp, they were ready to arrest him. But Lord Ramachandra said, because his surrender is sincere and pure, I'm accepting him. And moreover, Bibhishan became the next king. in Lanka, right? By the mercy of Lord Ramachandra. And on this topic, Dhanurdas was asking Ramanujacharya, Bibhishan, even though he was fallen, but he was sincere. His surrender was pure. And that's why Lord Ramachandra immediately accepted him. But what about us, whose surrender is not sincere and not pure? How can we be accepted by the Lord? It's a very good question. And Ramanujacharya replied, yes, our surrender may not be sincere and pure, but if we are connected to one who is sincere and pure and who is fully surrendered to the Lord will accept us by the blessings, by the connection with that Vaishnava. Because Bibhishan came with his 4 associates, also demons, and they were not as qualified as Bibhishan, but the Lord accepted not only Bibhishan, but all of them as well. So that's our qualification. If we are connected to pure devotee, because of that pure devotee's surrender, the Lord is showing His mercy towards us. And so Ramanujacharya, he, due to his powerful devotion, inspired many people to take up the process of devotional service. He was blessed with long life. It says that he lived well over 100 years. And he left behind 74 initiating gurus and 700 sannyasis. Pretty powerful army of preachers. And so he was stressing serving devotees, and on the opposite side, he was stressing to avoid mainly Vaishnava aparad. As we know, we can advance by the mercy of the holy name. And the first and foremost offense to the holy name is Vaishnava aparad. And Ramanujacharya, he was telling the story from Ramayana, very amazing example, which sounds even little unusual for us. Of course, Ramanujacharya was speaking a lot from Ramayana because his very name indicates his personality, Rama Anuja, right? One who was born after Ram, right? So he was, as scriptures say, he was incarnation of Lakshmana, right? Ram's brother and servant, who is the same Lord Balaram. And so Ramanujacharya gave the example of Sita Devi as offense to the Vaishnava. Of course, it is pastime. Sita Devi is none other but internal energy of the Lord. So she is above, any offenses or whatever. But for the sake of teaching us the example, this pastime took place, as you know, when they were in the forest, living in a hut, and there were so many demons, and Ravana wanted to kidnap Sita Devi, and he sent Maricha to allure Ram away from the hut. And Maricha turned into a golden deer And Sita became very attracted by the deer and requested Ram to catch that deer for her. And Ram was obliged to do something, to fulfill her desire. But he told Lakshmana, you have to guard Sita, you have to make sure that she is safe. And then after Ramachandra realized, again pastime, as if he didn't know before, that it's a demon, and he pierced him with the arrow, and while dying, Maricha pretended, simulated Ram's voice, and he started shouting, Lakshman, Lakshman, please help me. And Sita became bewildered. She was thinking that this is real Ram, and she told Lakshman, please go and rescue him. And Lakshman said, you don't have to worry, nothing happens to Ram, he is safe. It's all, fake. It's all demon's trick. But Sita was insisting, and as the pastime goes, because Lakshman was adamant that he will stay, but Sita wanted to push him to go to save Ram due to her love and concern for his well-being. She accused him of ill motivations towards her, which was very painful for Lakshmana, of course, because he was, so surrendered to serving Sita Ram. He never slept for 14 years, not even 1 second, right? And when he was inquired how Sita looks like, he said, I don't know, because I never looked above her feet. So he was only meditating on Sita's feet. And of course, for him, it was very painful accusation. And just to prove that he had no ill motivations, he was obliged to go. And of course, he, drew a circle around, protective circle around Sita, etc. But still, it didn't help, because Ravana bewildered Sita and pulled her out of the protective circle. But Ramanujacharya said, because Sita treated Lakshman in such a painful fashion, as a result, she had to spend 10 months in the association of horrible demons. That was the effect of her aparad against Lakshmana. And he gave another very important example connected directly to himself as reincarnation of Lakshman. He said one very close associate of Lord Ramachandra was amongst the monkeys, gorilla named Dvivida, serving Lord Ram very faithfully, but achieving great success. But then Dvivida was thinking, I'm such a great gorilla. I'm doing so much for Lord Ramachandra. I'm much better than Lakshman. And due to that vanity, due to that, arrogance, Dvivida started treating Lakshman offensively. But because Dvivida performed so much service for Lord Ramachandra, nothing happened. Physically, nothing happened to Dvivida. But as a result of those offenses, Dvivida started degrading in Krishna consciousness or Ram consciousness, whatever, in spiritual consciousness, and lived very long life, lived up to the appearance of Krishna and Balaram, and as we know, by that time became total demon. So from exalted devotee into total demon. So this is what Vaishnava Aparad is doing, right? And Vaishnava Aparad is always coming from that arrogance and thinking too much of ourselves, as Srila Radhanath Maharaj very succinctly points out that humility does not mean that we think less of ourselves. Real humility means we think, that humility does not mean to think ourselves being less, but to think less about ourselves. So that's the idea. And so that's how dangerous envy and arrogance is. So something to watch for. And as a result, there was no other choice but same Lakshman coming as Balaram had to kill Dvivida to liberate him from this offensive mentality and purify him. And so Ramanujacharya was always looking for one specific quality in Vaishnavas, which he considered to be topmost. Anyone can guess what was the quality he was looking for? Who can be perfect servant of the Vaishnavas, never committing any aparads? What is the most important quality? Starts with H. Humility, yes. So, and towards the end of his stay, he chose the most humble Vaishnava of all, and that was Parashara Bhattar, who was defined by Ramanujacharya as son of Lakshmi and Ranganath. Right? He said he comes from the Supreme Lord. And he showed so much humility, treating his own disciple, that he went to take darshan of Lord Ranganath, and of course he's been such an exalted acharya. Pujaris wanted to offer him a garland, but then he took that garland and offered it to Parashar Bhattar, and then took that garland from him and wore it himself. And he placed him on asana and he worshipped him. So he established him as the next acharya, because he was so humble, and we'll speak a little more about his qualification, as we heard from Srila Radhanath Maharaj. And before Ramanujacharya left this world, what he did was he was begging forgiveness, even from his own disciples, which was very hard for them to hear. For example, he was telling pujaris, I gave you so many rules and regulations. I made your life very difficult because you had to follow all these rules. Please forgive me. With tears in his eyes. And we understand that, of course, rituals are not that important, right? Maharaj says, we have to be spiritual. The most important thing is spiritual, to be spiritual, not just perform ritual, because this is what the Lord is looking for. There are many examples of those devotees who didn't follow the rituals properly, but had pure attitude, and the Lord would accept their service much more than those who perform so many rituals. But the question is, why do we have to perform rituals? Why Ramanujacharya gave so many rituals? And actually it is to help us to develop our humility. If we follow the rules and regulations properly, this is the benefit we get. And so, before he departed from this world, he gave devotees two most important instructions. One is to serve the Lord, Ranganath, very sincerely and purely. And second one is to cooperate with devotees. Does it remind us anything? Srila Prabhupada, exactly. Yeah. Which shows that all the acharyas, they are exactly in the same mood. And they understand that this is the essence. Serve the Lord congregationally, together with all the devotees. And about, Srila Prabhupada's statement that your love will be shown by how much you will cooperate amongst each other. Of course, this is something Srila Prabhupada was always meditating from the very start, right? Just look at the first purpose of ISKCON. What Srila Prabhupada was aiming at, peace and unity in the world through, Krishna consciousness. And so, where the unity in the world will come from? From unity amongst Vaishnavas. So, if Vaishnavas are not united, how can they contribute to the unity in the world? It's not possible. And everybody knows this famous phrase of Srila Prabhupada, that your love towards me will be shown by how well you will cooperate with each other, right? But how many of you know the prehistory, in which circumstances Srila Prabhupada said that famous phrase? Anyone knows? Anyone would? Okay. Some devotees know. But would you like to know? It's very interesting, because when Srila Prabhupada was about to leave his body, one young and very enthusiastic disciple, he came to me, to Srila Prabhupada, and he said, Srila Prabhupada, you know how Bhagavatam describes that, Puru gave his youth to his father, Yayati, right? And he took his old age and invalidity. If I could do the same for you, if I could pass over my youth and vigor, and if I could take your old age and death, I would be very happy. And Srila Prabhupada appreciated. He said, this is very nice sentiment, but it shows your love towards me, but your real love will be proven by how much you will cooperate amongst each other, which is kind of implies a subtle joke that from Srila Prabhupada's understanding, for many of the devotees, it was easier to die than to cooperate with each other. Which unfortunately is true. So, but yes, of course, for this kind of cooperation, we need to really focus on the third verse of Shikshashtakam, right, which is teaching all the important elements we need to work on in order to continue chanting the holy name. And so the very departure of Sripad Ramanujacharya was also very significant because he was surrounded by all his disciples, and he laid his head on the lap of his cousin brother Govinda, who was initiated as sannyasi by him personally, his disciple and cousin brother. And yeah, interesting, Uddhava is also cousin brother of Krishna, but he is disciple and follower as well. And he placed his feet on the lap of Purna, his very confidential servant and secretary. And then all the devotees around him were chanting holy names and chanting different passages from scriptures. Ramanujacharya really enjoyed. And then Ramanujacharya requested to bring sandals of his guru, Mahapurna, who was, of course, the prominent disciple of Yamunacharya, to whose mission Ramanujacharya dedicated his whole life. And through those sandals of Mahapurna, he meditated on the lotus feet of Yamunacharya and meditated on those instructions Yamunacharya gave him. As some of you might know, Ramanujacharya arrived to see Yamunacharya too late. Yamunacharya already left his body, but he had 3 fingers bent on his hand, right? And Ramanujacharya realized that these 3 fingers were 3 instructions he left for him, right? And he gave 3 promises according to those 3 instructions, and those promises are very similar to the essence of what we are doing. First one is to preach the Bhakti all over, as wide as possible. Second one is to write books on the science of Bhakti, especially Sri Bhashya. He wrote a purport to Vedanta Sutra. In this way, he, as Prabhupada would joke, he broke the teeth of Mayavadis with his commentaries, right? Sri Bhashya, Prabhupada says, Vedanta in that sense would mean Vidanta, teeth out, because Danta means teeth, right? Interesting, Danta, dentist, a lot of Sanskrit words are, a lot of words in different language, in English language come from Sanskrit. So Vedanta, so with his powerful explanations, he broke the teeth of Mayavad philosophy. And third one is to glorify the speaker of Vishnu Puran, who was Parashar Muni. And so Parashar Bhatta was named in such a way because he was meant to continue the legacy of Ramanujacharya. So Ramanujacharya was meditating on the his service to Yamunacharya, and he left this world in such a way, and no doubt where he went. But so many disciples were so pained by his departure that they were ready to commit suicide, and they would actually do so, but Ramanujacharya, knowing that, specifically forbade them to do so. So they could not disobey the order of their guru. And so he said, you can continue serving me by serving my instructions, but for those who are attached to my physical form, he actually ordered his own murti to be made in his presence, and he said, you can serve my murti in my absence. And he actually, after this murti was carved, he embraced it and he breathed life into this murti. And so he left this world on this day, which is the 10th bright fortnight of the month of Magha. And then his body was placed in the samadhi, but then, devotees are saying after the burial, the body came up to the surface, and they realized he wanted to be worshipped in such a way. And so they say that the murti of Ramanujacharya, which is worshipped in Srirangam, is actually his physical body. So it happened in 1157. And then Parashar Bhatta took over the leadership of Sri Sampradaya, and his father was Kuresh, famous Kuresh, and his mother was Andal. And if you allow, I could give few examples of his outstanding humility. Would you like to hear? So, Parashar Bhatta was continuing the mission, and he was very much in the mood of, Yamunacharya as well. And he regularly quoted one prayer composed by Yamunacharya, which is a confession prayer, which was, telling the Lord how fallen he is and how unqualified he is and how sinful he is, in minute details. Of course, we also do the confession prayers every morning, right? Before Panchatattva, Mosamo Patita Brabhu Napai Biara, we say that, I am the most fallen, O my Lord. I need your mercy first. But how much is coming from the heart and how much we really mean what we say, that's a big question. Or some devotees may not even understand what this line means. But Yamunacharya was making this confession prayer from the heart, and it was very elaborate. And Parashar Bhatta repeated this prayer every day in front of the Lord. And he was telling the Lord that he is the abode of weakness, greed, lust, envy, and because I am so fallen, my Lord, I need your mercy. But there was one man who was very envious of Parashar Bhatta. And when he was quoting this prayer, this man, he was telling, for example, he was saying, my Lord, I'm so envious of everyone. And this man would say, Satyam, it is true. Correct. My Lord, I'm so lusty, Satyam. I'm so greedy, Satyam. Openly. I'm so fallen, Satyam. Openly in front of everyone, he was telling this. Yes, correct, you are. And to the surprise of everybody, Parashar Bhatta turned around, came and paid obeisances to this envious man. And this man, he was shocked. He said, why are you paying your obeisances to me? I hate you. How come that you pay your obeisances to me? But Parashar Bhatta looked away and looked at the Lord. And he said, my dear Lord, every day I come with the confession and I'm asking your mercy. And you still haven't given me your full mercy. But today I'm fortunate. I brought witness with me. You see, this man, he confirmed everything. I actually am. You are not taking me seriously. Look, this is the man who confirmed every saying of mine. So please give me your full mercy. And this man, he was so shocked by this episode that he had full change of heart, and he became disciple of Ramanujacharya. And so, amazing. By humility, he changed the heart of such a envious personality. And it's in front of everybody. Everyone was so angry with this man, but Parasharbhata offered him dandavats. One other time, he was giving a class, and there was another very envious man who stood up and started correcting and chastising Parasharbhata in front of everyone, telling all about his faults and his shortcomings, everything. Everyone was so annoyed, but then Parasharbhata requested him if he could please come forward, and this man came forward. And then he gave him so many expensive gifts, gold, ornaments, and jewels. And he started thanking him. He said, everyone was confused what he is doing. But then Parasharbhata explained that while giving class, I have 3 duties. One is to glorify the Lord. Second, to glorify his devotees. And third, to confess of all my shortcomings. But I was so carried away by glorifying the Lord and his devotees that I forgot to confess. But this man helped me to remember that I have to confess. He confessed on my behalf. So that's why I'm very grateful to him. This man also became a disciple of Parasharbhata. And so, third episode, which is also very interesting, that one time a dog came up on the altar of Sri Ranganath, and pujaris decided to clean that, perform some special functions to purify the altar. And they called Parasharbhata to come along to take part in that purification ceremony. But he was asking the Lord, why do we have to perform this ceremony? The dog came on the altar. After this dog, we do this purification ceremony. I come to the altar so many times. No one had done purification ceremony after I come. How am I better than the dog? So like that. So this was the amazing next acharya after Ramanujacharya, someone who carried the torch of pure devotion. And so his disappearance is an opportunity for us to meditate on what this verse says, Bhagavatam verse, coming back to what the Lord says, viśada-anuvṛttyā, unflinching devotion. What is unflinching devotion means, and how to develop that unflinching devotion by humbly serving all the Vaishnavas and never thinking ourselves anything great. And in that sense, having any leadership position in ISKCON really helps, because leaders, many times they don't have to confess their faults. So many other people do that on their behalf. So that's why any position of responsibility in our society is very purifying, helping to develop humility. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So because our time is up, unfortunately we won't have time for any questions, but if there is anything, we can individually discuss. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Bol.